My wife screamed, "I don't owe you explanations." When I asked where she was at 4 a.m., I said, "Understood." Then, packed my life and disappeared. 4 years later, she showed up unannounced and went pale when my daughter ran into my arms. All right, Reddit. This happened 4 years ago, but the fallout just caught up to my ex last week, so I figured it was time to share. My wife told me I didn't owe her explanations when I asked where she was at 4 a.m. So I took her advice, packed my entire life while she was in the shower, and vanished across the country without a word. She spent years trying to find me. Then she finally did. Walked into my office unannounced and froze when she saw the 3-year-old who came running through the door calling me daddy. Here's how 6 years of marriage ended in one night. I'm 36 now, but when this story starts, I was 32 and genuinely believed I had my life dialed in. Decent software development job pulling in 6 figures, solid 401k building up. Married for 6 years to someone I thought I knew inside and out. We met when we were 26 at a mutual friend's wedding. Classic story. She caught the bouquet, I caught her eye. We exchanged numbers during the reception while the DJ was playing some Bruno Mars song everyone pretended to like. The wedding was one of those cookie-cutter affairs at a country club, but Rachel stood out. She was wearing this blue dress, laughing with her friends at the bar, and when our eyes met across the room, it felt like one of those movie moments. I walked over with my signature move, awkward small talk about how bad the chicken was, and somehow it worked. She laughed, gave me her number, and told me to text her something more interesting than food complaints. Our first date was at this Italian place downtown. She ordered wine like she knew what she was doing, talked about her marketing job with genuine passion, asked me about coding in a way that didn't make my eyes glaze over explaining it. By the end of the night, I was hooked. She had this energy about her. Confident, social, the kind of person who could walk into any room and immediately become the center of it. We started dating within a week, moved in together after 18 months because her lease was up, and I had a decent 2-bedroom that made sense financially. Got engaged 6 months after that during a weekend trip to the mountains. I did the whole hiking to a scenic overlook thing. Got down on one knee while she was still catching her breath from the climb. She said yes before I even finished the question. Married 2 years into the relationship at a venue her parents picked out. Spent way too much money on a party where half the guests I didn't even know. Standard millennial progression, nothing revolutionary. Just 2 people following the script society hands you. Date, move in, get engaged, get married, figure out the rest as you go. Rachel worked in marketing for a mid-sized firm downtown, always talking about campaigns and client meetings and networking events that seemed to multiply as the years went on. She was good at her job from what I could tell. Got promoted twice in 4 years, had her own team eventually, constantly on her phone coordinating with clients who apparently needed her attention 24/7. I worked remotely as a senior developer for a tech company based in Seattle, which meant I spent most days in our apartment writing code and attending video calls with people I'd never met in person. My job was stable, predictable, the kind where you could clock in at 9 a.m. and clock out at 5 p.m. without anyone questioning your commitment. I liked the routine. Wake up, make coffee, sit down at my desk, write code until my eyes hurt, close the laptop, done. Our life was comfortable. We had a nice 2-bedroom apartment in the city, decent cars, took vacations twice a year, did the whole Sunday brunch with friends thing, had our routines locked down. I'd make coffee every morning while she got ready for work. She'd pick up dinner on her way home most nights because I couldn't cook to save my life. We'd binge Netflix shows on the couch, fall asleep around 11 p.m. Repeat the cycle. For the first 4 years, it felt stable. Boring in a good way, if that makes sense. But somewhere around year 5, things started shifting in ways I kept telling myself were normal. Rachel started staying out later. Work events, she'd say. Client dinners. Networking happy hours that apparently lasted until midnight. Her job was social by nature, mine wasn't, so I didn't question it at first. Made sense that a marketing professional would have after-hours obligations, while a software developer could just close his laptop at 5 p.m. and be done. I spent most evenings exactly the same way. Coding on side projects, reading tech blogs, maybe playing some video games to decompress. She spent hers with colleagues and clients, or so she claimed. The pattern seemed logical until it didn't. The late nights became later. The explanations became vaguer. The energy between us became more distant. Looking back, the signs were everywhere. I just chose not to see them because acknowledging them meant admitting our marriage was falling apart, and I wasn't ready for that conversation. She started taking phone calls in the other room, would literally get up mid-conversation, walk into the bedroom and close the door. When I'd ask who it was, she'd say, "Just work stuff," in this tone that made it clear I shouldn't ask follow-up questions. Would angle her screen away when texting, tilting her phone at these weird angles like she was protecting state secrets. I noticed it one night while we were watching TV. She got a text, smiled at her phone, then immediately shifted position so I couldn't see the screen. When I glanced over, she locked it fast and put it face down on the couch. "What was that?" I asked casually. "Nothing important," she said, eyes already back on the TV like nothing happened. She bought new clothes constantly. I'd see charges on our credit card statement for Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, expensive boutiques I'd never heard of. But when I'd ask her to wear something new for date night, she'd show up in the same rotation of outfits she'd been wearing for years. Where were all these new clothes going? I never saw them in our closet. Never saw them, period. It was like she was building a whole separate wardrobe for a life I wasn't part of. Started going to the gym at weird hours, too. 6 a.m. before work when she used to sleep until 7:30, 9 p.m. after dinner, when she claimed she was too tired to do anything else. Cited some new fitness program her coworker recommended, some boutique gym downtown that apparently opened at 5 a.m. and stayed open until 11 p.m. for the busy professionals who couldn't work out during normal hours. When I suggested we go together sometime, she shot it down immediately. "It's my time," she said. "I need something that's just for me." Her whole vibe changed too. She'd come home either unusually cheerful or weirdly defensive, no middle ground. Cheerful Rachel would burst through the door talking a mile a minute about her day, asking about mine, suggesting we order takeout and watch a movie. Defensive Rachel would snap at me for asking how her day went, accuse me of interrogating her, storm off to take a shower that lasted an hour. Started picking fights over nothing too. I loaded the dishwasher wrong, stacking plates in a way that blocked the water flow, even though I'd been loading it the same way for 6 years. I bought the wrong brand of coffee at the grocery store, some unforgivable sin that required a 20-minute lecture about how I never paid attention to what she liked. I was working too much and not paying enough attention to her, which was rich considering she was the one constantly on her phone during dinner. Then the next day, she'd flip completely. Overly affectionate, clingy even, wanting to cuddle on the couch and talk about our future together. Would apologize for snapping at me, blame it on work stress or hormone fluctuations or lack of sleep. I'd accept the apology because what else was I supposed to do? Call her out for being inconsistent and risk another fight? Classic guilt behavior in retrospect. But at the time I kept making excuses for it in my head. She's stressed at work. The promotion came with more responsibility. She's just going through something. Everyone has rough patches in their marriage. I was an expert at rationalization, convincing myself that this was normal relationship turbulence, instead of the obvious signs that she'd checked out completely. The night that nuked our marriage was a Thursday in March. One of those unremarkable nights where you don't expect your whole life to implode. I went to bed around 11 p.m. like usual. Rachel had said she was going to stay up and finish some work presentation. I remember kissing her goodnight, her barely looking up from her laptop, muttering something about being done soon. Standard weeknight. I woke up around 3:45 a.m. needing to use the bathroom. That's when I realized the bed was empty next to me. Not unusual. Sometimes she'd fall asleep on the couch watching TV or pull an all-nighter for work deadlines. But when I walked through the apartment, it was completely empty. No lights on. No laptop humming on the coffee table. No Rachel anywhere. Her coat was gone from the hook by the door. Her purse was missing. Her keys were gone. But her car was still in our designated parking spot in the garage. I could see it from our balcony, which meant she'd left with someone else. Gotten into someone's car at 3 a.m. and gone somewhere. I checked my phone. No messages. No missed calls. Nothing. I texted her. "Where are you?" No response. I called. Straight to voicemail, which meant her phone was either off or she'd declined my call. Neither option was good. I sat on the couch in the dark and waited. The silence was thick, the kind where you can hear your own heartbeat and every creak of the building settling. 3:50 a.m. Nothing. 4 a.m. Nothing. 4:15 a.m. Nothing. 4:30 a.m. Still nothing. At 4:47 a.m., I heard her keys jingling outside the door. She walked in, saw me sitting there in the dark, and looked genuinely surprised that I was awake. Not guilty, not apologetic. Just surprised, like she'd been caught coming home late from a normal night out. "Hey," she said casually, like it was 6 p.m. instead of nearly 5 in the morning. Dropped her purse on the counter like this was completely normal behavior. "Where were you?" I kept my voice level. "Out." "Out where?" "It's almost 5 a.m. I was with friends. We lost track of time." She kicked off her shoes, acting like this was the most reasonable explanation in the world. "Which friends? Does it matter?" Her tone shifted, getting defensive. "Yeah, it does. You've been gone all night. Your phone was off. I had no idea where you were." She turned to face me fully, and that's when I saw it. That flash of anger that had nothing to do with being questioned. and everything to do with being caught. I don't have to report my every movement to you. I'm not asking for every movement, Rachel. I'm asking where you were at 3:50 in the morning when you weren't in our bed. That's when she lost it. Her voice went from defensive to hostile in about 2 seconds flat. Stop acting like I owe you explanations. I'm not reporting to you like some child with a curfew. I just stared at her. She wasn't stumbling, wasn't slurring her words. She was completely coherent and completely hostile, treating me like I was the problem for having the audacity to ask where my wife was before dawn. The disrespect wasn't just in what she said, it was in how she said it, like I was being unreasonable for caring. I stood up slowly, letting the moment stretch out. Got it. Got what? She looked confused that I wasn't escalating. Nothing. Forget I asked. I walked back to the bedroom without another word. She stayed in the living room for maybe 30 minutes. I could hear her moving around, probably texting whoever she'd been with to debrief the close call. Then she came to bed around 5:30 a.m., slid under the covers, and fell asleep immediately. No explanation. No apology. Just straight to unconsciousness, like nothing had happened. I didn't sleep at all. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, running through every late night, every vague excuse, every defensive reaction from the past 6 months. The pattern was so obvious once I stopped lying to myself about it. This wasn't the first time. This was just the first time she'd been this sloppy about it. The next morning, she acted like absolutely nothing had happened. Made her coffee, got ready for work in the bathroom while humming some pop song, came out looking perfectly put together. Kissed me on the cheek on her way out like we were still playing house. "See you tonight," she said cheerfully. I nodded, said nothing, watched her leave. That day at work, I couldn't focus on a single line of code. Kept replaying the conversation. The way she'd snapped at me, the way she'd refused to answer the simplest question, the way she'd turned it around to make me the villain for asking. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Not loud anger, but cold, calculating anger. The kind that makes you start thinking clearly instead of emotionally. I came home that evening before she did. Walked through our apartment looking at everything with new eyes. Started seeing all the signs I'd been ignoring for months. The late nights that became routine. The phone calls she'd take in the other room with the door closed. The way she'd angle her screen away when texting. The new clothes that cost more than her salary could explain. The sudden interest in fitness and appearance that coincided with the distance between us. The more I looked, the more I saw. Receipts in her purse for restaurants we'd never been to together. Credit card statements showing charges at hotels downtown. A second phone charger in her gym bag that didn't match her phone. All these tiny breadcrumbs I'd been stepping over for months because I didn't want to follow the trail. She got home around 8 p.m. that night. Cheerful again, talkative, asking about my day like we were a normal couple having a normal evening. I gave short answers. She noticed. "You okay?" she asked, putting down her purse. "You seem off." "Fine." "You seem distant." "Something wrong?" "Just tired." She shrugged it off, seemed satisfied that I wasn't pushing about the previous night. "I'm gonna take a quick shower before dinner." "Sure." And that's when I made my decision. Not an emotional decision, a strategic one. She didn't respect me enough to give me basic honesty. She'd made it clear that asking questions was interrogating her. She'd established that she didn't owe me explanations. Fine. I'd take her at her word. I went to our bedroom, pulled out 2 large duffel bags from the back of our closet, and started packing. Moved fast and methodically, like I was executing a project plan. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, laptop, chargers, important documents, birth certificate, passport, social security card, bank statements, tax returns, everything that would be a pain to replace. I worked with the efficiency of someone who'd been planning this for weeks, even though I was making it up as I went. I could hear the shower running, heard her start humming that same pop song from the morning. She had no idea her marriage was ending 20 feet away. I filled both duffel bags, zipped them up, carried them to my car in the parking garage. The building was quiet, everyone either at work or settled in for the evening. Nobody saw me loading my entire life into my trunk. Came back for a third trip, grabbed my work bag, some books, a few personal items I actually cared about, photos of my parents, my college diploma, a watch my grandfather gave me. The shower was still running. She took long showers, always had, usually 20 to 30 minutes of her full spa routine. I had time. I took one last look around the apartment. At the life we'd built, or the life I thought we'd built. The framed photos on the walls from vacations we'd taken. The couch we'd spent 3 weekends shopping for because she insisted on finding the perfect one. The coffee table she'd bought even though it was way too expensive. And I'd tried to talk her out of it. All of it suddenly felt like stage props in a performance I was done participating in. I pulled my keys off my key ring, just the apartment key and the garage fob, and left them on the kitchen counter next to her purse. No note, no explanation. She'd established the precedent that we didn't owe each other explanations, so I was just following her rules. I got in my car and drove. Didn't have a plan, not really. Just knew I needed to be somewhere she wasn't. I got on the highway heading west and kept going. My mind was surprisingly clear. No panic, no second guessing, just this strange calm that settled over me like I'd finally made a decision I should have made months ago. Stopped at a rest area around midnight, grabbed some fast food, kept driving. Hit a motel around 2 a.m. somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Checked in, paid cash, lay in an unfamiliar bed, staring at an unfamiliar ceiling. The silence was different here. Not the loaded silence of our apartment, where every quiet moment felt like it was hiding something. This was just silence. Empty, neutral, peaceful silence. My phone buzzed around 10 p.m. Must have been shortly after she got out of the shower and realized I wasn't there. A text from her. "Where are you?" I didn't respond. She called. I declined. She called again. Declined again. The texts started piling up, each one more frantic than the last. "What's going on? Why aren't you home? Are you okay? This isn't funny. Call me back. Seriously, you're scaring me. If you don't respond, I'm calling the police." I turned off my phone and went to sleep. Slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I drove further west. Made it to another state by evening. Found a cheap apartment listed online. Month-to-month lease, no questions asked. Perfect for someone making a clean break. Paid first and last month's rent in cash. Moved in with my 2 duffel bags and absolutely nothing else. The apartment was small, just a studio, but it had a window that faced east and let in good morning light. I sat on the floor that first night, didn't have furniture yet, and ate takeout from a container. It was the most peaceful meal I'd had in months. No tension, no wondering when the next fight would start. Just me, cheap Chinese food, and silence. I turned my phone back on long enough to see the damage. 73 messages, 42 missed calls, multiple voicemails I didn't bother listening to. I sent one text, "I'm fine. Don't contact me again." She called immediately. I blocked her number. She called from a different number. Blocked that too. She sent emails from her personal account. I set up a filter to automatically delete anything from her address. Over the next few days, she tried everything. Emails from different accounts, messages through social media, even got her sister to contact me. I blocked them all systematically, like I was debugging bad code and removing every error. I wasn't interested in explanations. Wasn't interested in apologies. Wasn't interested in anything she had to say. That ship had sailed when she told me she didn't owe me explanations. I was just honoring her wishes, permanently. I called my job, told them I was taking an immediate leave of absence. Family emergency. They were understanding, gave me 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, I applied for fully remote positions with companies across the country. Got 3 offers within a week. Accepted one from a tech startup based on the West Coast. Full remote, good pay, better benefits than my old job. Start date in 1 month. Used that month to rebuild systematically. Bought furniture. Nothing fancy, just functional stuff from IKEA that I could assemble myself. Set up a proper home office with dual monitors and a standing desk. Got a gym membership at the 24-hour place down the street. Started running every morning before the sun came up, just to have a routine that was mine. Opened new bank accounts at a completely different bank. Transferred half our joint savings. Exactly what I was legally entitled to after 6 years of marriage. Left her half alone, didn't touch a penny of what was hers. Changed my direct deposit. Updated all my automatic payments. Systematically untangled our financial lives, like I was dismantling a particularly messy code base. Filed for divorce in my new state. Clean, simple filing citing irreconcilable differences. Didn't ask for anything except to dissolve the marriage. Hired a lawyer who specialized in quick, uncontested divorces. Served her by email since I was out of state. She tried to drag it out, wanted me to come back so we could talk, but I refused every attempt at contact. My lawyer handled everything. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I never spoke to her again. Never saw her face. Never heard her voice. Just signed papers and moved on. Started my new job and threw myself into it completely. Worked 60-hour weeks not because I had to, but because I had nothing else to do, and the work was actually interesting. The startup culture was intense. Daily stand-ups, sprint planning, late-night deployments when something broke in production. But I loved it. Loved having something to focus on besides the wreckage of my old life. Got promoted within 8 months to lead developer, then senior lead 6 months after that. My manager loved that I was available for late-night calls with the international team and didn't have a family to rush home to. The company was scaling fast. When I started, we were 30 people. Within 2 years, we were at 200. I got to build the infrastructure team from scratch, hire my own developers, set technical direction, bought a better apartment, 2-bedroom in a nice area with trees and a park where people walk their dogs. Set up one room as my bedroom, the other as an office with the tech setup I'd always wanted. Dual monitors, mechanical keyboard, Herman Miller chair that cost more than my first car. It was my space, and nobody was around to tell me it looked excessive. Got really into fitness too. Started running every morning at 5 a.m. without fail. Downloaded Couch to 5K and worked my way up to half marathons. Lost 20 pounds, gained muscle definition for the first time in my adult life. Joined a climbing gym on a whim. Ended up going 3 times a week. Made friends with guys from the gym. Started hanging out outside of climbing. Dinner after workouts, sporting events at bars, normal guy stuff. My apartment became this bachelor pad that actually functioned. Clean, organized, everything had its place. Learned to cook properly because takeout got old. Started with pasta and stir fry, graduated to searing perfect steaks and making homemade pizza from scratch. Tried dating apps for about a year. Went on maybe a dozen first dates. Some fine, some disasters, none clicked. One woman I dated for 2 months, but couldn't get past this mental block where I was constantly analyzing everything for signs of lying. Ended it before it got serious, then took a break from dating altogether. About a year after the divorce finalized, so 2 years after I'd left Rachel, I met Rachel. She worked as a project manager at a consulting firm we'd partnered with on a major project. Ended up on several video calls with my team. I noticed her immediately. Not because she was the most attractive woman I'd ever seen, though she was definitely pretty. It was the way she carried herself, confident without being aggressive, direct without being rude. In our second meeting, some executive rambled about synergizing stakeholder engagement for 15 minutes when Rachel interrupted and said, "So you want us to email the client, right?" The executive stuttered and admitted yes. I almost laughed. After that meeting, I messaged her. "Thanks for translating corporate speak into English." She replied, "Someone has to. These meetings would last forever otherwise." We started messaging outside work calls. Professional stuff at first, then casual conversations about weekends and what we were watching on Netflix. 3 months into the project, we both ended up at a tech conference in Austin. Same hotel, same schedule. I suggested we grab actual coffee, she agreed, and we spent 2 hours at a cafe just talking. She told me about her divorce 5 years earlier, how her ex had been a functioning substance user she'd supported for 3 years before walking away. I told her about Rachel, the 4 a.m. fight, leaving and never looking back. She didn't judge, just listened. "You did what you had to do," she said. "Sometimes walking away is the only thing that preserves your sanity." That night, we got dinner, then breakfast the next morning, then spent the entire second day skipping conference sessions to walk around Austin and talk. By the time we flew home, something had shifted. Rachel was straightforward. If she was going somewhere, she'd text me the details without me asking. If she'd be late, she'd give me a heads up. If something was bothering her, she'd just say it instead of picking passive-aggressive fights. Revolutionary concept, basic communication and respect. Who knew that's what relationships could look like? We dated for 18 months before getting engaged. I proposed at this quiet spot overlooking the ocean during a weekend trip. Nothing elaborate, just honest. She said yes without hesitation. We got married in a small ceremony 6 months later. Immediate family only, no big production, just the people who actually mattered. And it was better. Not just different, actively, measurably better. Rachel worked remotely too, so we'd be in the same apartment all day but didn't get on each other's nerves. We'd take lunch breaks together, go for walks, cook dinner as a team. She never made me feel like I was suffocating her by existing in the same space. Never acted like my presence was an inconvenience or my questions were interrogations. She got pregnant about a year into our marriage. Completely planned, both of us ready, excited about it. When Lily was born, something shifted in me. Holding this tiny human who was completely dependent on me, who trusted me unconditionally, it put everything in perspective. This was what I'd been looking for. This feeling of building something real with someone who was actually committed to building it with me. Rachel was an incredible mom. Patient, nurturing, but also practical. Didn't lose herself in motherhood. Maintained her career and her identity. We split responsibilities evenly. Night feedings, diaper changes, doctor appointments. Figured it out as a team instead of keeping score like Rachel and I had done with everything. Life was peaceful. My job was going well. I'd gotten another promotion and was leading a team now. Rachel's career was thriving. Lily was hitting all her milestones and developing this hilarious little personality. We'd moved to a bigger apartment with a yard, got a dog, did all the suburban family stuff. It was the life I'd wanted with Rachel, but had been too stubborn to admit she'd never wanted with me. And then, 4 years after I'd vanished from Rachel's life, she found me. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my home office wrapping up a meeting, about to grab lunch, when my assistant messaged me. Someone named Rachel is here to see you. Says she knows you. Doesn't have an appointment. My blood went cold. I'd been so careful. Changed my phone number, locked down all my social media, used my middle name on public-facing company directories. But apparently, it wasn't enough. She'd found me. Part of me wanted to tell my assistant to send her away. But another part, the part that had spent 4 years wondering if I'd ever get to say what I needed to say, told me to let her up. Send her in, I replied. 5 minutes later, there she was. Standing in my office doorway looking older, thinner, more worn down than I remembered. Still put together. Designer clothes, perfect hair, expensive bag. But there was something fragile about her now. Like she'd been running on empty for a while. Ethan, she said, and hearing my name in her voice after 4 years was surreal. Hi, Rachel. I kept my tone neutral, professional. Didn't stand up, didn't offer her a seat, just waited. Can I come in? I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat down slowly, clutching her bag like a shield. We sat in silence for a moment, her looking around my office, probably noticing the photos on my desk. Me and Rachel on our wedding day, Lily as a newborn, the 3 of us at the beach last summer. Nice office, she said finally. You've done well. Thanks. More silence. She was struggling, trying to find her opening. I wasn't going to help her. I've been looking for you for 4 years, she said eventually. You disappeared, changed your number, deleted your social media, moved across the country. I had no idea where you went. That was the point, she flinched. I deserved that. I know I did. But Ethan, we were married for 6 years. You just left without a word, without giving me a chance to explain. You told me you didn't owe me explanations. I was just respecting your wishes. I was angry. You were interrogating me about where I'd been. I asked you a question. One question. Where were you at 4 a.m. when you weren't in our bed? That's not an interrogation. That's basic communication between married people. She looked down. I know, you're right. I was defensive because I knew I'd been caught. Caught doing what? Silence. She was deciding whether to finally tell the truth or keep spinning the same lies. I waited. The room was so quiet I could hear the clock on my wall ticking. I was having an affair, she said finally, voice barely above a whisper, with my boss, Trevor. It had been going on for about 6 months. That night, we'd gone to a hotel. Lost track of time. I panicked when you asked because I knew if I told you where I'd really been, you'd leave me. So instead of telling me the truth, you blew up at me for asking. Yes. I leaned back in my chair, processing information I'd already suspected, but never confirmed. When did it end? About a week after you left. I realized what I'd done. How badly I'd screwed everything up. Tried to end things with him, tried to fix things with you, but you were gone. You'd blocked me everywhere, filed for divorce, disappeared completely. I couldn't fix it. You couldn't fix it because there was nothing to fix, Rachel. You destroyed it beyond repair. I know. Tears started streaming down her face. I know I did. And I've spent 4 years regretting it. 4 years wishing I could take back that night. Wishing I'd just told you the truth. Wishing I'd been honest from the beginning. And that's why you're here? For forgiveness? I'm here because I never got to apologize. Because I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Because I've spent 4 years living with what I did, and I needed to tell you that I know I was wrong. I studied her face. She looked genuinely broken. Genuinely sorry. Maybe she was. Maybe 4 years of consequences had taught her something. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Okay, I said simply. You've apologized. Now you can go. That's it? That's all you have to say? What else do you want me to say, Rachel? That I forgive you? That I understand? That I'm glad we had this talk? I don't know. I thought maybe we could talk. Really talk. Get closure. I got closure 4 years ago when I drove across the country and rebuilt my entire life. You're looking for closure for yourself, not for me. She stood up slowly. I guess I deserve that. You do. She walked toward the door, stopped with her hand on the handle. Turned back one more time, like she was searching for something in my face. Some crack in the armor, some sign that part of me still cared. Are you happy? Really happy? Yeah, I am. Good. You deserve that. I'm glad you found someone better than me. I didn't find someone better than you, I corrected her. And I could see hope flash across her face for a split second. I found someone who actually wanted to be with me. Someone who didn't treat basic honesty like an unreasonable demand. There's a difference. The hope died. She nodded, understanding that there was no coming back from this. I really am sorry, Ethan, for all of it. I know you are. But that doesn't change anything. She nodded, opened the door, and that's when Lily came running down the hallway. Rachel must have brought her by for a surprise visit. She did that sometimes when she was running errands nearby, would stop by with Lily for a quick lunch. My daughter burst into my office at full speed, ponytail bouncing, wearing her favorite purple dress. "Daddy!" she squealed. I picked her up, spun her around like I always did. She giggled. That pure, uninhibited 3-year-old giggle that makes everything else in the world disappear. I held her close, feeling her little arms wrap around my neck. When I looked up, Rachel was frozen in the doorway. Her face had gone completely pale, staring at us like she was seeing a ghost. "You have a daughter?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah. How old?" 3. I watched her do the math in her head, realized that I'd moved on within a year of leaving her, found someone else, gotten married, started a family. The timeline was clear. I hadn't wasted any time mourning what we'd had. "You moved on fast," she said, and there was an edge to her voice now. "I moved on to something real. There's a difference." That's when Rachel appeared in the doorway behind Rachel. She took in the scene immediately, saw me holding Lily, saw the strange woman standing there with tears running down her face, and understood exactly what was happening. Rachel was good at reading situations. "Hi," Rachel said calmly, pleasantly, with that smile she used in tense client meetings. "You must be Ethan's ex-wife." Rachel nodded, couldn't seem to find words. "I was just leaving," she managed finally, voice cracking. "Safe travels," Rachel said, moving aside to let her pass. Rachel walked out without looking back. I watched her disappear down the hallway and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, no vindication. Just nothing. That chapter was closed, and seeing her again was like looking at someone I used to know in another lifetime. Rachel came in and closed the door. Lily was already distracted, playing with a stress ball on my desk. My wife came over and kissed my forehead. "You okay?" she asked quietly. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm okay." "What did she want?" "Closure, I think." "Did you give it to her?" I gave her the truth. That's all she gets. Rachel kissed me again. "Good. You want to grab lunch? The 3 of us?" "Yeah, that sounds perfect." And it was perfect. We went to this sandwich place Lily loved, sat outside in the sun, watched her make a mess with her food, and laugh at her own jokes. Rachel and I talked about normal stuff, weekend plans, daycare schedules, whether we should finally book that beach trip we'd been discussing. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from Rachel since. Don't expect to. Don't want to. Through mutual acquaintances, I eventually heard the full story. The affair with Trevor lasted about 8 months total. His wife found out around the same time our divorce finalized. Apparently, she'd hired someone to follow him and got photos that made mine look tame. He lost his job when HR found out he was sleeping with a subordinate, lost his marriage, lost his kids in the custody battle when the judge saw evidence of his affair. Rachel left the company shortly after. Whether she quit or was pushed out, I don't know and don't care. Apparently, she tried to make it work with Trevor for a few months after both their marriages ended. Some twisted logic that if they'd destroyed everything for each other, they should at least try. It fell apart within 3 months when they realized the only thing they had in common was being willing to lie to their spouses. She moved to a different city after that, tried to start over with a new job and new life, but apparently kept running into dead ends. Jobs that didn't work out, relationships that fizzled, friends who got tired of hearing her talk about how she'd ruined her life. The mutual friend who told me all this seemed to expect me to feel bad for her, maybe even suggested I should reach out and offer some kind of forgiveness or closure. I didn't. Actions have consequences, and she was living with hers. I was living with mine too, except my consequences were a wife who respected me, a daughter who adored me, and a life I'd built on honesty instead of lies. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.